So Demaryius Thomas traded to the Texans. The Texans are a team that are currently leading the AFC South. They're currently 5-3, and they're well on their way to securing a seed into the playoffs. Now, the reason why the Houston Texans went out and traded for Demaryius Thomas is because they desperately needed an outside presence at receiver, besides DeAndre Hopkins, that is, because they have DeAndre Hopkins, who's a number one, no doubt about it, one of the elite receivers in the NFL. But they definitely needed to replace Will Fuller, which unfortunately he did get injured and he's going to be out for the season. And without Will Fuller, I think this team would have significantly been hurt in that area at wide receiver, because I've discussed it before. I really feel like Will Fuller is a type of receiver that can really, really benefit and make big plays, as he has when he's been in the lineup with DeAndre Hopkins on the opposite side of the field. Hopkins takes a lot of the double teams, a lot of the attention, maybe even the best corner. So that allows Will Fuller to basically take a one-on-one matchup. He can use his speed deep. He can get separation. And now basically what Houston is doing here is that they can trade for a guy that I honestly don't think is as good as Will Fuller at this point in his career, in Demaryius Thomas. I would say he is still a solid number 2 or 3 in the NFL, and can definitely get it done. And I think he will have a little bit of familiarity with the Bill O'Brien offense, because he did start his career with Josh McDaniels and the Patriots style of offense. And even though the Texans don't run the same offense, Bill O'Brien does come from the New England background. So I think there is some familiarity there, and I don't think it will take long for Thomas to get really up to speed, because Thomas is a veteran of this league. He's played in a lot of complex offenses, whether it's been Peyton Manning's offense and so on. So I don't think, and even Gary Kubiak's offense. So I don't think that there will be too much of a difference there in terms of Demaryius Thomas coming in and really learning the offense halfway through the season. That's a very difficult thing for a receiver to do, come in and learn a new offense. But I think Demaryius Thomas will be able to, the veteran he is, come in and pick it up. I am more concerned about Demaryius Thomas's overall skill set. He is still a tall receiver with some speed, doesn't quite have the game-breaking, game-changing speed he used to. He used to be one of the best players from a screen pass and just a standing standpoint to take that and burst down the field and take that to the house. I don't think he no longer is that, but with a better quarterback on a better offense as the clear number 2 behind DeAndre Hopkins, I think it will be interesting to see how Thomas kind of tries to rejuvenate his career, because over the past couple of years, he's been a little bit inconsistent, a lot of drops, but he certainly can still come over the middle, catch a football. He can still get separation using his size and speed. He's still a difficult matchup for a lot of corners. So Demaryius Thomas is still a number 2 receiver, and he's still a solid guy. And for a 4th-round pick, and then also swapping 7th-round picks, I feel like that's a fairly good price for Demaryius Thomas. He's still a solid receiver. And for a team that's looking to go to the playoffs and potentially make an impact, for him to come in there and replace Will Fuller, I think was a nice trade for them. For the Broncos, I equally think it was a nice trade. The Texans do have Keke Cote as well. So behind Keke Cote, though, there was an issue with depth, because they only have Sammy Coates really as their 4th receiver, and you don't really want to rely on Sammy Coates in any situation. So overall, felt like that was a solid trade for the Texans. As for the Broncos' perspective, the biggest reason they made this trade is because they really believe in their young talent at receiver. They still have Emmanuel Sanders, who is, in my opinion, clear-cut their number 1 receiver this year, and even last year. I think he's overall their best guy they have, and I do believe Emmanuel Sanders is a top 20, top 25 receiver in the NFL. So maybe he is declining a little bit over the next couple of seasons because he is getting older. But at this point in his career, he's still a top 20 receiver. So when looking at that, you have Emmanuel Sanders still there, and you have Courtland Sutton, who I've said for many weeks, I believe he may have even surpassed Demaryius Thomas. He's played really, really well in his limited opportunities. Last week, he led the team in receiving yards. I think they really want to give him an opportunity to replace Demaryius Thomas, a very similarly built receiver, not as fast as Thomas was in his prime, but can definitely go up and make contested catches. And he's really good at that. Deshaun Hamilton is also a guy that is a savvy young slot receiver. So we'll see how he comes into the fold. I think they just believe in their young talent that they drafted this year at the position. And by moving on from Demaryius Thomas, they can give them an opportunity to play, get some draft capital, and also clear some salary cap. So that's the perspective from both sides of the trade. I think that both teams won it. I don't think either team was a loser here, and I think both teams got what they wanted. So overall, solid trade from the Texans and Broncos for Demaryius Thomas.